Welcome to this week's edition of the Scenes from the Spectrum podcast. SixersGraeme, SixersJustin with you. Like always, we're going to get straight into this one. And we're going to talk about the disappointment that was last night. We had high expectations. Expectations obviously not met. And quite frankly, I was pissed off for a little bit watching the game. I didn't even watch the fourth quarter. It was a bad showing. A young team just wasn't working.
Yeah, like you, I couldn't even watch the fourth quarter. I tweeted out last night that this is like the first time I've ever shut off a game. And that says a lot because I haven't missed a game since 2016. But just all eyes on Philly and this game and just the disappointment that came with it. I mean, it was kind of a wake up call for this team. I mean, they've been on a roll and they're playing together, but you just hate to lose um, to a rival and like that to lose like that. It's really frustrating. And last night was probably the most frustrating loss of the season.
It was disappointing. Like it was straight up disappointing, embarrassing in the fact that the Sixers team with tons of hype, and not even the fact that Ben Simmons was playing. Harden's playing his team that he wanted out of, right? And he puts up a stinker. Joel Embiid, other than free throws, I mean, he was dominant, of course, like he earned his free throws, but he wasn't able to hit shots from the floor like he usually was. We had no answer for Kevin Durant, didn't have an answer for Bruce Brown. Kyrie was getting whatever he wanted. It was just a bad outing. Andre Drummond was putting in the energy. Seth Curry was showing us why we shouldn't have traded him away. There was a lot of things in this game that it was just like, wow, this is we got a lot of work to do. And I think the Nets they hit a lot of shots. It was one of those games like when we played the Celtics and they hit an ungodly amount of shots. They won't be able to replicate that again. That was the best of the best we're going to see from the Nets. And that offense will not be as free flowing as it was when they implement Ben Simmons. So we really don't have to worry about that too much. Honestly, uh, the defense for us is the most important thing of that game, of how just bad, playing out bad the defense was. It was probably the worst defensive showing we've had all season, or top three worst defensive showings we had all season. Nobody was wanting to be a point of attack defender. Bad roaming. Matisse Thybulle did not, show up when you've got guys like Kevin Durant and Kyrie on the other team. Matisse Thybulle just was pretty much non-existent. Yeah, he had his couple of deflections, but he was not able to stay in front of the offensive player. And it was the defense that really cost us the game early, because you could see Joel starting to get hot. Harden had made the three to break Reggie Miller's record. Maybe we got some momentum, but they just kept making shots. They got open looks. You got to give the Nets credit because they knocked them down, but still, the lackluster defense was just super frustrating.
Yeah, and I doubt we're gonna see another game like this with the Nets. I mean, they shot 60% from the field, almost 50% from three. I mean, they were near perfect, which is something you're really not gonna get on a typical night. They played fantastic defense. It's probably their best defensive game all year. Everybody was just flowing offensively, and they were just hitting their shots. My one problem with the Sixers offense was back you rewind back to game 7 and you watch Kevin Herter cook Seth Curry all night long. We have James Harden. We should be able to manipulate that switch to get Seth Curry to guard Harden, and Harden should be able to put in his work. I mean, he played really, really bad and just a lackluster offense, and we just couldn't get anything going. I mean, you're never gonna see that kind of defense from the Nets again, from my view.
Yeah, it was an all-around really good game from Brooklyn. They didn't have many things that were deficient. Their offense was very good. Their defense was very good. They were good rebounding. They were moving the ball extremely well among the perimeter players, especially. The ball movement was really, really good. And yeah, like we couldn't take advantage of mismatches like Harden on Seth Curry. We really didn't get that at all. And when we did, Harden would not even take the three, he would drive in and turn the ball over. It was a bad outing from Harden. Tyrese Maxey, other than a few spurts of the game, wasn't the same Tyrese Maxey we've seen all season long. Shake Milton seems lost out there, and even Tobias Harris, he got off to a slow start, but he started hooping when the game was out of reach, and we needed him way earlier on for that. So there's a lot of things that went wrong offensively and defensively, but the Nets wanted it more and they outplayed us.
Yeah, you could tell from the jump that they were just playing way, way harder and kind of just wanted it more. I mean, the only guy that was really giving their all on the Sixers squad was Joel Embiid. I mean, he was putting in work down in the post, drawing fouls, getting Andre Drummond in foul trouble, and just it was really frustrating because I mean, for the past week, I mean, I've had this problem with Harden, where he kind of tends to play more passively than aggressive, and likes to pass the ball instead of take it for himself and shoot it. And I found that a lot with the pick and roll with Embiid. I mean, I thought there was a lot of opportunities where Harden off the pick and roll could drive in, either take a mid range or go in for a floater, a layup. But he dishes it off to Embiid or somebody else. But I feel like there's times when he should pass, but more times that he should be aggressive and take the ball for himself.
Yeah, that's one thing for me. He tries too hard to get players like Tyrese or Tobias involved. When in reality, a step back three is all we need right now. Or a 3-point make or a shot creation make where he drills a double and then you pass it out. There's a lot of times where he's one on one and he could beat the defender, but he chooses not to. And a lot of times, oh my gosh, a lot of times that ends up to a Matisse Thybulle three after it gets passed around a couple times, which is ultra frustrating. And I think that James, he needs. I think he needs a little bit more of him in the bench, just so he can go ahead and just play his ISO game, get acclimated. And so when it gets to the second half, and when you really got to get it in crunch time, him and Joel. Both have a nice feel for the game, and the defense is picked up as we usually do in the second half, but it just wasn't there last night. So I think that James just needs to figure out how to play with both the starters and the bench unit, just so he can, not take these terrible shots. And when he does have a good opportunity, that he's not trying to get others involved too much. So it's got to be a little bit more unselfishness, honestly, for James Harden.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand the overreaction by fans, but I mean, a loss like this, it really sucks. It's really frustrating, but I mean, it happens.
Yeah, I mean,
You never want to see it, but it just happens.
at the end of the day, it's still just a regular season game. The Nets are still in eighth place. We're in second. I mean, it's okay that this was a loss. Obviously, given the circumstances, you would have loved to win this game, and that's fine as well. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a regular season game. We got plenty of chances. We can bounce back against Orlando, and if Embiid has a really good game against Jokic, we'll forget about this game entirely, right? And it was just those TNT games, man. When we play a team in our division, I guess that they just cannot miss shots,
Listen,
and that was the thing about the Nets. They just as soon as you feel like you could go on an 8-0 or 11-0 scoring run, Kyrie would hit a step back three. Bruce Brown would get a wide open lane for a dunk, or we'd foul. It was just bad overall. And I'll go back to James Harden for a second. Like the first play of the game was a turnover, and it just feel like just slow down, get the ball in your hands, find the shot you want, and let's work from there. It's just I feel like that more or less needs to be our offensive identity.
Yeah, there was a few times where when I was watching it and Harden had a turnover or the other team would deflect it, I would just kind of like what's the reasoning for that pass? I mean, there was so many times where he just made passes that he didn't need to, and it some of them resulted in turnovers or others resulted in deflections by the Nets defense, but just a really frustrating game from Harden. And I mean, hope to not see it again. I mean, you hear all the noise from the fans. Harden doesn't show up in big games. I mean, it's a regular season game. Come on, but you know we're okay in the third seed. Right, I'm pretty sure we are the third seed right now. The Nets are still fighting for a playoff spot, so I think they should worry about that first. But I mean, we could sit here all day and pick this game apart from each player and who did bad I mean, but all in all, it was just a bad game from everybody. I mean, the only light spot we saw was kind of from Tobias Harris, but obviously it was when the game was out of reach. We need that kind of Tobias on a nightly basis, but it's just one of those games where you just sit back and be like, all right, we got our ass beat. Now let's just go back next game and put in some work.
Yeah, that's got to be, you can't think about this game if you're any of the Sixers players really. You got to look to blowing out a bad Orlando Magic team and then turning around and playing against a playoff ready Denver team that has been on a really good hot streak, and they've got an MVP candidate themselves. So there's a lot on the line. The Magic, if we lose to the Magic, I would be very concerned. If we lose to the Nuggets still in a close game, I'm really not that concerned. I know the Nuggets are a really good team, and we're still trying to find our stride, especially defensively. And I think that if we beat the Magic handily and then we lose closely, or maybe it's one of those things where the Nuggets can't miss. I doubt it. That just keeps happening against the Sixers. Maybe we just have that where we just have bad luck where every team just comes out and shoots lights out from three. But I think that if we lose to the Nuggets in a close game, Embiid and Jokic have a duel, but we beat the Orlando Magic, you can still move on because we got plenty of games on the schedule that need attention. Like we got to beat the Heat. It would be nice to beat the Raptors, and then we've got the Suns and Bucks in a game along with the Clippers. There's a lot of winnable games down the stretch, and I think that we play the Pistons twice in like the last 2 weeks of the season. So there's plenty of times to get wins back. I know we play the Pacers later in the season as well.
We
Uh,
play we
yeah,
play the Pistons twice, we play the Pacers twice.
yeah. So there's plenty of time to get wins back. We just need to get this team playoff ready.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the biggest thing right now is just getting this team acclimated to each other, getting used to each other. I feel like our backup center minutes have been giving to DeAndre Jordan and been taken away from Paul Millsap, which I love to see. I mean, just DeAndre Jordan, just a solid, I wouldn't say good, but he's just a very solid backup five, and that's kind of all we needed, or all we could get kind of for the
Yeah,
rest of the
I think
year.
I think that it is it was a good pickup. I mean, he played fine in the minutes. I mean, he's not going to be asked to have an extended role unless we're blowing out a team or we're getting blown out. And I think that he played fine. There was nothing wrong with DeAndre Jordan. Nothing that he could have done to help us win the game. Obviously, he didn't. He didn't. Definitely didn't lose us the game. I think that Jordan, once he gets those bench minutes with Harden, where Harden can go on the ISO and we get a good rim runner. I think that's where we can really find our stride offensively. Defensively, there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered. I don't expect it to be answered in 1 or 2 games either. Matisse is going to have to step up and I'm going to have to ask him to be so much more disciplined as a defender. It was quite frustrating because he made good defensive plays last night, but he was still extremely undisciplined on some like pump fakes that everybody in the world knows he's not going to shoot that ball. And I think that the defense needs to step up, and that's my biggest worry right now.
Yeah, I think a huge problem with Matisse is he goes for the highlight plays. He goes for the big blocks and the good steals when in reality, everybody's pump faking you when you're jumping 5 feet in the air. And now you kind of look silly because the team just has to rotate and fix your mistake. Um, the Matisse the defense the kind of defense that Matisse plays worries me sometimes, obviously because he likes to gamble and he likes to do it all the time. And a lot of times it doesn't work, but when it does, it makes him look like a genius. But you can't be a gambling defender when people know you're gonna fall for that pump fake because he falls for it every single time. And it's just really frustrating to watch.
Yeah, that's like I said, he's gotta be more disciplined, and he's gotta stop gambling as much, but that's the thing that he doesn't really have, the best ability just to stay in front of a guy. He'd almost rather be behind somebody and try and block their shot, which is effective, but not as the number one, perimeter defender on the team. It was fine when Ben was here because we had Ben that we know we could lock down, and I think that Harden is going to have to put more energy defensively. I mean, he's been just average. He hasn't been bad. He obviously hasn't been phenomenal, but he's been holding his own defensively, especially post defense. I've like Harden a lot, but Matisse. Yes, he makes phenomenal defensive plays. Nobody's disregarding Matisse's ability to make highlight defensive plays. It's just the pump fakes, the crossovers. He just bites on them. He's undisciplined at times. A lot of times, majority of the time, he's undisciplined as a defensive player, and it's cost us a lot. It cost us a main reason we lost Game 7 was the foul on Kevin Huerter. It's the same thing, a pump fake on a sidestep three that everybody in the world knows he's not going to take, right? And he bites on that. So a couple of times where KD did it to him. He got switched on. He wasn't fighting through screens as hard as he usually does, which is something that Matisse is usually good at, getting around the screen and blocking the shot from behind the player. We didn't see that a lot. And yeah, he got some deflections, but still, we need Matisse to be more or less a lockdown. More of a lockdown, less of a highlight.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a thing you have to work on in the off season. Not really something you can change right now. We're almost at the end of the season. Playoffs coming up. We're at the third seed. Um, Now, do you want to move on to the next topic?
All right.
Or do you have it?
Let's just talk about the games upcoming. But obviously, you can't talk about the games upcoming without mentioning Embiid versus Jokic and the implications for the MVP race. A lot of people have been saying that March 14th it would determine the MVP. Quite stupid of them to think that, honestly, because that one game is not gonna determine anything. Like if Jokic has, 27, 11 and 15, and Joel has 38, 10, and but he shoots a lot of free throws. Who's going to win those arguments, right? So there's a lot of stuff that could happen. Of course, if Embiid has a stinker and Jokic plays amazing, it's going to be tough for Embiid to get those votes back. Same thing, vice versa. If Jokic can't hit a shot and Embiid's just impeccable, uh, there's a lot of things that could happen where Jokic can slide down. The way Jokic has been playing, he's getting a lot more. I don't want to say media recognition because he was last year's MVP. So like he obviously was the most valuable player in the eyes of the media. Who votes on the MVP. So I don't want to say he's getting more media recognition. I think the NBA fans are warming up to the fact that he's probably the best player or one of the best players in the NBA. And I think that Embiid is up to the challenge, no doubt. He wants to face Jokic. They haven't done it in a while. I don't know if they did
It's
it last
been
two
a
seasons.
it's been I think it's been over 2 years.
Yeah, so it's been a while before we've seen a good Embiid versus Jokic matchup. I'm really looking forward to it. I like the center position a lot, the way it's going. Carl Anthony Towns is one of my favorite centers just to watch, just leisurely watch. I like a good big man that can shoot, and I think that we're gonna have a treat. I just I just don't. I have a hard time with the people that be like, "This is the MVP, this game right here." There's so much more to that. There's no way an MVP can be decided on one game. Yes, it can have a lot riding on it, no doubt. But I feel like both players are going to have a good game, and we're going to be right back at square one with the discussions.
Yeah. If back to what you said about like if one person has like if Jokic has like a bad game and Embiid has like a phenomenal game, I think that can sway some voters' choices. But all in all, like this this doesn't really have much an effect on the MVP race. We have 82 games to show for it. They're not gonna pick one game out of 82 and be like, all right, this guy played better, he's the MVP. No, it's not that. It's really difficult to kind of choose who's MVP. I mean, they've both been putting up fantastic numbers, some numbers that we haven't seen in a long time, or maybe some numbers that we've never seen before. But it's gonna be a difficult vote for the media, and I'm really excited to see who they vote for. I mean, it better be Embiid, but you know,
Yeah, I still think Embiid is very much in the hunt, probably the front runner if things can get figured out. But those national TV performances are bad, and it's not like he played bad. It's just that the team wasn't the Sixers that we know and love, or maybe maybe they were. But there's a lot of things that that could go wrong. There's a lot of things that can go right. The NBA they released their updated MVP rankings. Is interesting because Jokic is at 1, and then it ties second place. You got Joel and Giannis, and then fourth John Morant, 5 DeMar. So yeah, there is of course there's a lot riding on it. It's not going to be decided in one game. I just want Joel to show that he can work any center in the game. We saw him give Bam Adebayo absolute fits, and I think that um, obviously Jokic a much better offensive player than Bam, but the defense Bam is a lot better than Jokic. So I think that if Embiid can take advantage of the defense that is improved from Jokic, still not amazing. The metrics are a little too good to be true at this point for Jokic defensively, but you look at Embiid and the way that he can get players in foul trouble that could come into effect, and I actually think it will. That's going to be one thing about the game that many people might not be thinking of. Embiid is most likely going to get Jokic in foul trouble, and how will that affect the numbers and the stats that all these people love to look at? I think that's one thing. That's an underlying topic about the game that a lot of people aren't talking about.
yeah, because Jokic hasn't played Embiid in years. I mean, all the other centers are kind of used to playing Embiid, but obviously still getting foul trouble. But Jokic is a guy who is not used to playing against like a foul baiting center, and that's what Embiid does. But I do think Jokic is gonna get into foul trouble early on, and it's really gonna affect his numbers. But I mean, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I do expect Embiid to have a better game. I might be a little biased here, but I do think he'll put up a 30, 10, and 5 game. But obviously Jokic is probably gonna stat pad for the triple double. But I mean, I'm excited to watch this game. This game has been circled on my calendar for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a game with a lot riding on it, no doubt about it. The fact that Embiid and Jokic are going to play on the same court together enough is what NBA and what the fans need for the game. So I think that it's just gonna. First of all, it's gonna be fun to watch. Hopefully, the Sixers win, and hopefully, Embiid shows everybody that he's the MVP in a perfect world.
Yeah. Any predictions on the game? Who do you think's gonna win? Or any other storylines for Monday?
Yeah, okay, so in a perfect world, of course, Sixers, I wanna win them, I would want them to win both games. Realistically, I'm leaning more towards a Magic win, or we beat the Magic, so a win over the Magic, and then probably a loss to the Nuggets in a close game.
Yeah,
Obviously,
like
I would love to win both games, but being realistic, what we saw last night, this team needs a lot. They need a lot of help.
yeah,
And
like
playing a team like the Nuggets that are just on fire right now, it's gonna be tough to turn around that quickly.
yeah, and like we can't forget the Sixers are going to be on a back to back. The second end of that being against the Nuggets. Um, we never perform well in back to backs or the second end of it. I mean, you saw it in the Miami Heat game. We were tired, we were slow. All our shots were short. I mean, we do play the Magic. Nothing on the Magic, but they're not a good team. We should be able to steamroll them pretty easily. But if I had to choose, I mean, this is a biased answer, but I would pick Sixers. I mean, I do think they're gonna get their stuff together, especially after last night's loss against the Nets, and I just feel like we're gonna see a better team out of this. But rooting for a Sixers win on Monday, but I mean, you never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, that's one thing that you never know what you're gonna get on a back to back. We don't know if Harden will even play that game. He didn't play against Miami, scheduled back to back, scheduled, do not play on the second game of a back to back. We don't know if that's the case for the Nuggets game either with his hamstring. So that's one thing that you gotta beat the Magic. You gotta get the gimme games. We gotta beat the Magic down the stretch, the Pacers and the Pistons. Those type of games you gotta win, and I think we will. Those are the type of games where like Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris show out. So I'm banking on that just so that we can have the security of a loss to Denver. If we lose both, I would start to panic a little bit.
If we lost to the Magic, I would definitely be very concerned.
I would be
And
too.
last night was the like I said earlier, the only bright spot was Tobias Harris kind of like finding his rhythm, hitting a couple shots. Hopefully, we're gonna see that going forward. I mean, you never know with that guy. He's could be on one game and could be completely off, struggling to hit a shot the next game. But there's a lot of questions with this team. Hopefully, they'll show us on the court. But I mean, you never know. Um, all right,
Yeah, there's
that's
just
all I got to say about that.
there's just there's gonna be a ton of media attention. Your Legion Hoops and your Hoop Central, NBA Central, all these big NBA accounts are gonna be putting so much on it because those are the same people that do the start bench cut center, or who's the better center. Every day, it's gonna be it's gonna be like a fun matchup. It's going to be way more fun if the Sixers win. Embiid has a great game, obviously, but there's so much more to the MVP race than just March 14th. It,
Absolutely. All right. So looking forward, I mean, the Sixers have a few tough games, and generally, I wouldn't say we have that much of a hard schedule going forward. I mean, we play the Magic, the Nuggets. We get a little tough stretch with the Nuggets, Cavs, then the Mavericks, the Raptors, then the Heat, the Lakers and Clippers. We should take care of. The Suns and Bucks is going to be difficult. Then we move on to the Pistons, the Hornets, Cavs, play the Pacers twice, and then the Pistons to finish the season.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at this, like you said, it's not a tough schedule, but there are some games that are going to be really good. Always love playing the Suns. That's always a really good game. The Raptors are teams that we got to beat. We got to beat the Raptors. We got to beat the Clippers. Got to beat the Hornets, of course. I feel like Pistons and Pacers should be gimme wins at this point. The Mavericks at home, I have a good feeling about that one. The Cavs, they just aren't as good as us. They might sneak one game because we play them twice the rest of the season. And we got to beat the Lakers. Lakers aren't good. Got to beat the Mavericks. We're better than them. And Suns, Bucks, Heat are 3 games of the remaining schedule where I have have a pretty bad feeling about from last night, or from what we saw last night. But considering we got just under 20 games left, and I only have a bad feeling about 3 of them, I feel like that's a good sign for the Sixers.
Yeah, we should be able to take care of business in kind of most of these games. Maybe a few losses in there, but we have to beat the bad teams. It's just it's a must. Cannot lose to the bad teams like the Pistons or the Pacers. I mean, you have to take care of business against the Raptors. But I mean, nearing the end of the season, we do have some pretty tough matchups. Like you said, the Bucks, the Heat, and the Suns, which are always fun to watch. But maybe some teams will be playing for seeding. I mean, you don't know what you're gonna get until we're there.
Yeah, I mean, we could get 10 more games over 500 than we already are right now, or or it could go very bad. I feel like this is a good opportunity for us to hunt, maybe that 1 seed, or stay in the 2 seed. A good opportunity for Harden and Embiid to get acclimated together, and Embiid to start off or finish off, I should say, his MVP campaign. There's a lot of basketball to be played. And like I said, there's going to be just a handful of games where it could go either way, where the teams are evenly matched, like the Suns, like the Heat, and like the Bucks game. But other than that, there's a lot of teams on the schedule that just simply aren't as good as us. And I feel like those are the type of teams where we have to be. Like I said, maybe the Cavs slip one by us, or the Clippers. We had a hard time at the Clippers last season. Of course, 2 years ago we had the Shake Milton game, but like even we got to put away the Hornets at home. The Raptors, I do not want I don't want them to beat us. We have to go in Toronto late in the season in April 7th. There's just there's a lot could go wrong, but there's also a lot that could go right. Where if you beat the bad teams and then you win 2 out of 3 against you beat the Heat and Suns, right? And maybe you drop one to the Bucks, but you won 2 out of 3 of the games that are huge, and then you beat the teams that are aren't as good, and that could be enough for us to be the 1 seed. Who knows?
Yeah, it'd be really nice to finish the season as the 1 seed. I mean, it's for any team around the 2 or the 1, 2, 3. It's kind of a little worrisome, especially with the Nets all the way back at the 8th seed right now. But I kind of expect them to move up in the standings. I don't know if they'll get out of the play-in, but we'll see in the next few games. Kind of a better look at what they're gonna be.
Yeah, like you said, we're gonna need this magic game and this Nuggets game to really gauge of where the team's at offensively and defensively. One thing that we are going to do right now, there are some quotes in the post game presser from yesterday.
Hmm.
First off, there's one from Doc Rivers, and I feel like he pretty summed it up. He summed it up pretty well. One of those games where it was a great example of a team that hasn't been together and everybody was trying to do it themselves. That's what Doc Rivers said in his post-game presser. Justin, just your thoughts on that. I think that he hit the nail in the coffin right there.
Yeah, I thought what he said was kind of spot on. I mean, it didn't seem like we were really playing as a team, and it didn't seem like we were together at all. Kind of just all over the place. MB trying to do it all himself. Just we need more of a team effort and more of people getting acclimated to each other and finding everybody's rhythm and all that. I mean, this is only the team's 6th game together. They have so much. They have like a little under 20 games to go. They have a lot of time to kind of get things going, and I think they will.
Yeah, certainly a lot of time. And like Doc said, it was everybody trying to do everything, and it was everybody trying to play hero ball, and it just didn't work out. And when you play that type of game where it's a hostile environment, you're playing at home, you got a lot of expectations to win, and things don't work out in the beginning. People try and take things over, just didn't work out. Another one from Doc. Um, he said, in quote, I just thought they played harder. They were more aggressive. They played in our airspace all night. I thought they were the more physical team all night. I didn't think we played together all night. And I think that that's pretty much an elaboration to the first statement that he said. And that's a good quote from what he said about them being in their airspace. That was one of the keys, is that the Nets were in our face and we weren't in the Nets' face. We were trying to pass the ball around like it was a pickup game, and they were turning those turnovers into dunks. They were crossing us over. They were hitting threes. They were able to quiet the crowd down. That's one of the main things, is that they went up to punch us in the mouth, and we had the opportunity to get them back, and we just never did.
Yeah, I mean, both quotes spot on by Doc. I mean, they did play harder. They were more aggressive. Embiid kind of was the only one that was playing super aggressive, and he was the one match. He was the only one on the Sixers team that was matching the Nets' energy level. And that can only take you so far, and you saw that last night. But moving on to a Tobias quote. He said, "Yeah, for us, we've been rolling and playing well, so that does affect us. But it was also a wake up call for us that we've got to do a lot of work, or that we've got a lot of work to do." What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's obvious. You do have a lot of work to do. And Tobias, he kind of knows that he's gotten off to a slow start and he needs to still prove himself in the rotation. And it was good for him to see some shots go down. And I feel like I have a good feeling for Tobias coming up, that he was able to see his shot fall. But yeah, like, they were playing well, and they had good outings against the Knicks. Obviously, the steam rolling over the Timberwolves. Uh, you didn't have Harden against Miami, but then you also played really good against the Bulls. And for Tobias, like you said, it was a wake up call that it's not all it's not all sweet. To paraphrase, that maybe the Bulls aren't the team we thought. Like we've been saying on this podcast, but the Nets are that team. They're still that championship contender. Doesn't matter what seed they're in. They still have KD and Kyrie at the end of the day.
Yeah, moving on to a quote from Harden. Tonight was good for us. We got our ass kicked. It should give us a wake up call and show what we need to work on. I mean, it kind of brings back to what Tobias said, that they have a lot of work to do, and kind of the theme that I've been talking about all game, that I've been talking about all podcasts, is that everybody needs to get used to each other and kind of just get into rhythm. That's kind of all we're waiting for, is just everybody to get in rhythm and kind of get used to each other.
And there's still plenty of time for that. We've got until about second week of April to figure all this out, because no matter what we're going to do in the playoffs or who we're going to play, it's going to be tough. The Eastern Conference is ultra competitive. You got to be on your best game before somebody knocks you down. And last night was such a great opportunity just to show the Sixers are here and we're here to stay and we're for real. But it just wasn't like that. Like I said, it was a perfect opportunity, and the Sixers just didn't take advantage. But it was good for them. It showed a lot of flaws that they can work on. A lot of stuff in the fill room, obviously, that Doc's going to get at, especially defensively. And I feel like it's a good opportunity to learn from this and move on.
Yeah. And moving on to kind of something that a lot of people would seem to be angry about, was Harden partying after the game with Lil Baby and Travis Scott. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, yes, obviously somebody's birthday pre-planned to whether it was it was a loss or a win, so I don't really care that much. Uh, Like, Allen Iverson did this every single night of the season. There obviously, there wasn't social media around, but the Philadelphia, is not, new to this sort of, players, nightlives after games. Like, the Flyers in the '70s were notorious for this type of things. So, I don't care, like, honestly, I mean, he was there, it was obviously a friend's birthday. Like, if you had a bad day at work, are you not allowed to go to your friend's birthday party that night? I feel like it's just stupid that people are mad about this because, first of all, you're not James Harden. Just because you lost one game doesn't mean you can sulk and be sad all the time.
Yeah,
He
what do
just
you want? Do you want him to go home and just cry all night?
yeah, I
Like,
mean, he's just
come on.
enjoying himself, and this is like a coping method for Harden. If you know, like his Houston Rocket days, this is the type of things where Harden would go out and he would play well the next couple of games.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it at all. I don't see why other people are having problems with it. He wants to party, go right ahead. I mean, nobody's stopping you. You had a bad game, okay. Get back in the gym tomorrow and get locked in. I mean, you're going to celebrate a friend's birthday party. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I see absolutely nothing with what Harden did. And the people that do see something wrong, um, you need a reality check because this has been going on for decades. The history, and it's not even outside of Philadelphia. It's happened in Philadelphia numerous times, and there's probably times it happens and we don't even know about it. This is nothing new. He just happens to be a high celebrity with a lot of celebrity friends, and this is what happens uh, when you have those type of people around you, and that's just James Harden being James Harden. Uh, there's nothing really to look into it. They lost a game. He's at a birthday party. I mean, it's as simple as that. Uh, and the funny thing is the people in the comments that aren't Sixers fans or they're Nets fans, or maybe they're the team of another NBA team, and they're like, "Yeah, Philly, we warned you," or Sixers fans are going to be happy when they see this, and majority of us don't care. Obviously, there's that slither of the portion of Sixers fans that are old heads and feel like everybody should go to timeout after they lose a basketball game.
Mhm.
But the majority of Sixers fans just don't care, and it's like Bulls fans and Heats fans and Nets fans and Lakers fans are like, "Yeah, Sixers, this is what you signed up for. How are you feeling now?" Like, we don't care. I think that's funny.
Yeah, I mean, most people it was funny. It was funny to see like non-Sixers fans like talking about it. Like,
Yeah, telling us what we're gonna be mad at. Like,
oh, we
what do you
warned you. We warned you. Like, we knew this was gonna happen. We know he likes to go out and
yeah,
party. Like, this is not
we're
something
not
we're
dumb.
surprised about. Yeah, we don't have a problem with it. Dude wants to party, go party. I don't care.
Yeah, I think that, like, and we've had player like Embiid when, when we lost Game 7 Toronto, everybody was so mad at him for crying down the tunnel. I mean, it's you gotta pick a side and stay on it, NBA media, fans, casuals, whatever you wanna call yourselves. But yeah, I mean, I had no problem with Harden, Lil Baby, Travis Scott. They're all friends. They were at the game. It's good for the Sixers that those guys are at the games. Uh, Nothing, like I said, nothing wrong with what Harden does after the games because first of all, it's none of our business. Second of all, why would we care? Uh, and that's that.
And kind of moving on to a different sport. There was some breaking news yesterday,
Oh, finally, finally, finally.
and baseball is back. You're a bigger baseball fan than me. What was your reactions and how you feeling?
Yeah, I was thrilled. I was very happy that they're gonna get some spring training in. And the season starting April 7th, there's gonna be a lot of double headers to get that week back that they lost. But all in all, I'm super pumped. This baseball season, the Phillies are gonna try and make a lot of moves. The NL East is gonna be ultra competitive. The Braves obviously gonna be really, really good. They've Braves got a World Series team, and then they're going to bring back Acuna. We don't know what's happened with Freddie Freeman. The Mets obviously are going to be really good with Scherzer added to them, along with Starling Marte. So it's like, you got a lot of teams in the Phillies division. The Nationals obviously have Juan Soto, so it's going to be an interesting free agency period, and it's going to leak into some spring training. It's just going to be baseball thrown at us like that after not having it for a while. It's going to happen quickly. A lot of these moves and a lot of these deals being made, and then before you know it, it's going to be the regular season starting.
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to get back into baseball the last few years, especially with the Phillies getting Bryce Harper. But it was cool to see that it's back. I'm excited to see what kind of moves the Phillies make. I know there's been a lot of talks, but you know more than I do. So
Yeah, it's like the Mets went out there early with Starling Marte and Scherzer. The Phillies looking at Chris Bryant, which would be, picture perfect because Alec Boehm isn't an MLB third baseman. Nick Castellanos would obviously fill a major hole, which would give Abdul Herrera out of a job, which baseball fans have been wanting that for a long time, not just Philly
I
fans.
hate that guy.
I mean, you can't have Travis Jankowski in the outfield every day again. But again, it's going to be tough for the Phillies if they don't make a move. Braves are going to be, like I said, a World Series team, depending on who they keep. They've got a lot of work to do. The Mets are obviously going to be really good. It's just, can their pitchers stay healthy? In the National League, it is going to be interesting because there will be a DH to be. How will that affect these teams that are going to make the decisions for the Phillies, for the Braves, for the Mets? There's still a lot of work to do because when free agency began and when the Mets went out and they got their players and these other teams got their players, there was no, they were still under the old CBA. So how will that affect, knowing that you're going to have a designated hitter? How will that affect the money that you give to your hitters or your pitchers? And maybe you get a third baseman with a lot of power and put him as your DH instead of getting another starter. And I feel like that's the thing with the Phillies is they've got a lot of holes defensive wise where they're going to find their designated hitter. And I feel like Brad Miller is going to be the opening day DH for the Phillies.
Yeah, Brad Miller's a fan favorite. I mean, a lot of people love him. He's a good guy. I don't know much
Bamboo
about.
Brad.
Yeah, I don't know much about trying to get back into it more, but I
But
gotta get
obviously the
there.
Phillies, if they can get Chris Bryant and Castellanos, they'll be well on their way. And with the added playoffs, you could see the Phillies in that wild card spot, even if they don't win the National League East.
Yeah, Phillies haven't been to the playoffs in what 10
10
years?
years. 10 years. That's
Is that
right.
the second longest drought?
Yeah, the Mariners on the longest. I feel like that's like 21 years or something crazy.
Yeah, they
But
gotta
yeah.
get their stuff back together and kind of make a run here.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens first between the Sixers making the Eastern Conference Finals and the Phillies making the playoffs.
What do you think? What do you think's gonna happen first?
That's tough because if the Phillies don't make the playoffs this year, I feel like it's going to be the Sixers Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question. We'll circle back to that.
yeah. You kind of want to wrap it up?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. We covered a lot of stuff. Harden is just fine. Tyrese Maxey just fine. Tobias Harris will be just fine. Matisse Thybulle hopefully will be just fine. Yesterday was bad performance. It happens in basketball. We bounced back from it before. We're going to do it again. And the Sixers, like I said, plenty of games, winnable games. Like, golly, we're going to win a lot more than we lose
Yeah,
this last month coming up. So I have a good feeling about the Sixers heading into the playoffs. And you never know once you get to the playoffs what you're going to get. But that's all for today. Justin, as always, Thank you for joining me on this podcast. It's been a pleasure to have you here. I
Of
love talking hoops with
course.
you, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, does not matter. We're gonna start getting some guests in coming soon as we do the push for the playoffs. It's gonna be tons and tons of fun.
Yeah, and expect to see the ramp up in more content. Could be live streams. Watch out for that. Um, more episodes. A lot of stuff to talk about. Make sure you guys check out our link tree in our bios and check me out on Twitter at SixersJustin. Check Graham out on Twitter at SixersGraeme. Check out all our socials. Follow us, subscribe, like, leave a good rating. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Do all that. Peace.
Peace.
Clap your hands, everybody.